Deepti Galan is with me on the set to take us through what the papers have been saying around the world today. Hi, Deepti.
Hi, Jeannie.
You're starting in the U.S., where there is a lot of reaction to this decision from the U.S. Supreme Court in favor of a baker who refused to make a cake for a gay wedding.
That's right. He refused to make that cake on religious grounds, of course, in what became an infamous case known as the Masterpiece Cake Shop case. Jack Phillips refused to make a wedding cake for a gay couple, citing religious reasons. The Supreme Court ruled 7-2 in favor of the baker. And for the National Review, a conservative American magazine, the decision breathes, I quote, a bit of life back into religious liberty jurisprudence. And this, out of all things, by a justice who was Justice Anthony Kennedy, a gay rights activist. The magazine notes that Colorado, in the past, where this case took place, has protected the right of bakers to refuse to create cakes with anti-gay messages. So for this magazine, at least, it's normal that they should do it for the opposite reason. They're hailing the fact that tolerance is, quote, not a one-way street.
Now, of course, there are some who say it's not exactly a victory for the religious right either.
And this is coming really from the liberal press. The Daily Beast explains it's not a loss for the LGBT community because this decision does not set a precedent for future cases, which was something that was widely watched. The Justice Kennedy didn't rule as well on the core issue of whether the baker had a right to refuse the cake. He rather ruled on the fact that his freedom of religion was violated by the state. So for the Daily Beast, at least, this case in the end really says nothing at all.
All right, let's move on now to Donald Trump's ambassador to Germany, who may have sparked an international incident just a few weeks into the job.
He's only a month into the job, Jeannie, and he's already drawing a lot of anger from the Germans, at least. His name is Rick Grenell. There you see him on the front page on that article from Vox. He's a U.S. ambassador to Germany, and in recent comments to the far-right website Breitbart, he said he, quote, wanted to empower other conservative leaders in Europe, citing Austria's Sebastian Kurz as somebody he admires. Now, Vox says the keyword being empower, which for some seem to imply that he might be working actively to topple the centrist government in Germany led by Angela Merkel.
Now, of course, in Germany, this has sparked a lot of anger.
Well, the harshest criticism is coming from the former center-left leader Martin Schulz. That's according to the website Zeit. Schulz accused Grenell of behaving like a, quote, right-wing colonial officer, reminding him that ambassadors are representatives of their own states and not of political movements. Only Merkel's CDU party was a bit more restrained, saying it's not up to them to tell the U.S. ambassador how to do his job. But you can practically see the eye-rolling from the German website Frankfurter Allgemeine with this article where the writer says, I quote, Rick Grenell is not the first American ambassador who knows nothing about Europe.
All right, let's go now to the Philippines, where Rodrigo Duterte is facing the heat after kissing a random woman at a public meeting during his South Korean diplomatic trip.
That's right. A random woman, albeit a Duterte supporter, because I'm sure he wouldn't have anything less than that. The Philippine Star is talking about it on their front page. At a rally with the Filipino community in South Korea during a recent official trip there, he pulled up a female supporter on stage and basically kissed her smack bang on the mouth. Here's this kiss that you can see from on page 4 of the Philippine Star. Militant women's rights groups and critics in general have slammed it as, quote, the disgusting theatrics of a misogynist president. But what's interesting is that it's also sparked a lot of disgust and kind of grossness. This cartoonist for the Manila Times, at least, is just really grossed out by what seemed to be a leery kiss.
Now, the British daily The Guardian has landed an exclusive interview with NSA whistleblower Edward Snowden.
And it's, in fact, it marks 5 years since since the biggest leak of classified documents in history that was revealed by The Guardian. Edward Snowden is talking to the British daily today, going back on the past 5 years. He's, of course, one of the world's most famous fugitives. And in The Guardian, he says he has no regrets, despite being exiled in Russia and hunted by the U.S. He says the most important change since a leak is the fact that people now know that governments and corporations, I quote, preyed on our ignorance. Even if we do know that, we're still, for the moment, powerless to do anything to stop it.
Deepti, just to wrap up now, an only in America story. A nightclub's gift to a man who was accidentally shot by an off-duty FBI cop who was dancing.
That's right. You might have followed the initial story from the weekend. On Saturday, an off-duty FBI cop was dancing in a Denver nightclub, as you do on your day off, when he did a pretty impressive backflip, but it caused his loaded gun to fall out of its holster. When he picked it up, he accidentally shot another patron in the leg. Thankfully, the victim is okay. And as a gesture of goodwill, the Denver nightclub is now offering that patron free complimentary drinks for life. I'm sure that'll take the edge of the pain at least.
Dipti, thank you so much for that. Dipti Coloron. With that look at the press review, you can get a closer look at all of those stories, of course, on our website. The address is france24.com. Coming up in the next half hour on this World Environment Day, we'll focus on the growing problem of dealing with the world's waste after the headlines.